demos.
Yeah, so I've got a demo this week.
Yeah. Antoine.
Little demo.
What? No, Antoine.
Yes, I do. I do
do.
have a little demo.
Okay, good.
I can do spatial search.
Jasmine has spatial search.
Yeah,
Special demo. Yeah.
special.
And then topics. Redesign because we talked about it last time, so I want to see this issue and the votes, the bugs that people found last week, and I did a lightweight user study. I had a meeting with Noel, and we went on a journey of building a site with Orchard, and it's always fun. I'm learning so much. And I will give my feedback. Then status. Status on Orchard 1, which I didn't pull here. And there is nothing, and we didn't do any triage, so we didn't merge anything. So next triage next Thursday. OrchardCore, so many things. So let's focus on the dev branch. What is this thing here? Hide. Show. So last time 23rd from there. Update OrchardCore.Title Doc. What is OrchardCore.Title? Oh, that's the module. Lets you customize the display text property of your content type. Beautiful. So at first when I saw the thing here, I thought that Antoine would make the change. And then I see the word throughout. And I'm like, I don't think that's the word that Antoine uses. So I checked, and yeah, that's not Antoine. And okay, good. Brent, who's Brent? Oh, lots of commits from Brent on the doc. Who's Brent? Because that's a good doc. That's exactly that. So, and it was not in the doc apparently.
Mostly formatting because it's just the two previous lines on line.
Okay, good. That explains then. OrchardCore doc, formatting, okay, good. Fixes liquid ShapeTag. Yes, there was a lifetime issue with this tag, meeting with Jean-Thierry, and we decided to split them. Wanted to reuse stuff, but now to reuse, we just compose the other one instead of inheriting. And this way we don't have this lifetime issue, which is at the same instance was reused and then state was changed not correctly. So now it's fixed. Just refactoring here. Yeah, everything is static in this case. And we keep that. So the idea is that this is not documented and it's not used. We don't find it in the code, but I wanted to keep the property just if we remember what it was done for. Apparently, we might have renamed it to cache tag at some point.
No, cache dependency is an important one. We have that in Razor.
So yeah, but this is this is dynamic. Is it? ShapeTag.
Maybe it's not related to maybe it's not related to.
Yeah, it's dynamic.
The shape tag. It's related. Yeah, related to the cache tags, which are a different tag.
No, this is a property that you can set on every shape, and then the dynamic cache will find these on shapes and apply the dynamic caching properties. So yes, it's dynamic caching. That's why, probably. And I assume at some point we rename it because we use cache tag, we don't use cache dependency. But I remember at some point I wasn't able to explain the differences between the two, and then I realized what was the difference. But I don't remember anymore. I'm sure I wrote it somewhere. I think tag is the, as long as we have time. We don't use that, so that's, but I still wanted to keep it as a comment, just so we don't forget completely about it. Shortcode content property. Something I broke and I forgot to fix. So good. Remove unnecessary casts from liquid filters because it's always a liquid template context. Yeah, in this case, yes. Yeah, unnecessary. Yeah. Yeah, you made it always a liquid template context, but you copied the code from before and you forgot to remove the cast.
Yeah, I just missed a few when I saw it when I was helping someone with an issue. So better fix it.
Check button opacity. Oh, a comment about something like this. I'm not sure. So I personally don't like it, but I realized that when we switch tabs, like in the settings, there is an animation, like a transparency animation, like it's fading in, fading out when you switch tabs. I'm not a fan of that because it makes the UI slower than my click. Like I click and I have to wait a few hundred milliseconds before seeing the thing, just because there is an animation that does some transparency thing. It's kind of opinionated, weird thing, just saying. So if I'm not the only one to think that, just change it. Otherwise, I will live with it.
Why are we talking about tabs?
I don't particularly disagree. I think it's just the default Bootstrap classes which do that. So.
That's weird because Bootstrap is usually very slick. And so I will start while I'm talking and I will show you why. It will be better because I'm Orchard here running pretty full. So widget button opacity, and I'm sure there is a screenshot somewhere, but it's changed. Fix notification locale when the site is restarted. So the idea is that in the same controller, there are multiple notifications like this one and before. But here, when it's restarting the shell, this notification will be translated. Or it's the opposite. It won't be translated yet because the scope hasn't been reloaded with a new culture because you changed the setting. So you will have that notification not in the language that you just selected before by changing the default culture. That's a small issue that is fixed now. Same thing here. Between the event and the next notification, you might even have two different languages using notification. But again, that's a small thing that is fixed by this custom scope. CultureDictionaryRecordKey for PERF. The idea is that instead of rebuilding the same cache key every time by concatenating two strings, there is a custom struct that we'll use as the key for the dictionary. From Isham. Update OrchardCore.Lucene doc. Okay, updates in the docs. Exprint. Missing Liquid ISite.BaseUrl accessor. Apparently, I missed some properties. Well, this one was not ordered correctly, but I missed this one, BaseUrl. For the liquid templates, fixes safe settings, null reference exception. Okay. Ah, because of this new culture scope that is now used, probably. Yeah. Interesting. Make ShellScope.StartAsyncFlow public. along the async flow. I have no idea what an async flow is.
It changed recently to be internal, and someone was actually using it for Hangfire when it was when Hangfire needs to create dependencies or give them access to a service provider. So JT made it public again, so that fixed it. I don't know what it does either, to be honest. But
holding the shell scope along the async flow. Maybe it's related to the async local. The machine scope is related to that, so make that start current. Yeah, that's must be it. Yeah, that's what it is. To mark a custom shell scope for being the current one when you do shellscope.current. And that's what it's doing. Okay. Assigning this shell scope to the current async thread. Okay. Auto-enabling feature dependencies. That's a hard one. So the idea being that if you update some packages and the update comes with a new dependency, the next time you start, it will enable the dependency it was requiring. Otherwise, the dependency won't load. The feature you had already enabled actually won't load because it's missing some dependencies just because of the update. So it assumes that if it's enabled and there is a new dependency, to enable the new dependencies. So interesting if it's working, because I thought it would be hard to do. Reapply 5.15.3, which is the best. What is that?
Font awesome.
Font awesome. Okay. Remove duplicate antiforgery token that blocked. So one antiforgery token too much. Fix layers. Content type rule to not include stereotypes. Where are we? Content type condition evaluator driver for the rules module. What does it mean to not include stereotypes? Now it's a not here. Oh, so if it doesn't have a stereotype,
so it means don't count widgets, basically.
or yeah, try get property. Not okay, because you assume that the default, no stereotype means content, so that's what you want.
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to include this if you'd rendered the main content item and then we were then rendering the widgets. Just wouldn't quite add up so well.
Okay, jsplumb resources. Okay, static manifest, and the provider returns manifest. Writing it because that makes me think about it. Add transient. Okay, so we don't. Now we use a resource. Okay, good. Workaround of the view text buffer text writer. I will talk about it later, and there are multiple comments for that after. Reduce some liquid tag allocations. It's related also to the same thing and the PERF stuff. So that's everything the same thing here. Full view buffer, same thing. That's reverting that with a new way. I think it was Saturday. I had a good Saturday with Chantieri. Better checking buffer related. Then Antoine updating MKDocs, updating Babel, show display mode and editor on pouch.
On the content type, when you edit it, if you select another editor, for the HTML body, for example, you select Trombowig editor.
What happens?
I previously did it for the fields and it was missing for the parts.
So what was missing? To be able to choose a different editor?
To be able to display the editor in a bar.
Current editor. I see.
Yeah.
Okay, you show it later if you do a demo. Newtonsoft.Json 13.01. So there is a new JSON.NET release. I was almost about to say maybe, because when I saw the 0.1, I'm like, okay, there has been a 13.00. So they already fixed some issues, but it's actually, so it's 1 based. Gems apparently releases with a 1 based, not 0 based. So this is the first release of the 13.0 whatever. And actually it's kind of risky because, well, it's not bad. I'm not complaining, but we might want people to find the bugs before we do. But nobody apparently has complained because it's been a week now and still the same version. If we check there, that was a long time after. Okay, so 5 months and then 7 months and then a year and a half, something like that, before the version. So, and I checked just fixes, mostly fixes for very, very weird cases. So nothing special. New Markdig.
Probably
Sorry?
update your. We should probably update your SQL as well.
Yeah, there will be a.
Point.
Oh, that's a major change. So that might be conflicts then. Yeah, because it's a major number. So maybe our API changes and maybe there will be runtime exceptions because of that. If SQL calls something that is no more there, because this one will be taken.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. And that's why I will show you. That's why I need some, yeah. Markdig update. Okay. I think Markdig is, oh, Markdig, I know it's faster. No, which one? Yeah. MailKit update, Serilog update, MKDocs update, again, twice in a week. NLog.Web.AspNetCore update. Fix upon ID application step to include response type RST permission. I saw the issue pinging Kevin, so it was missing some properties apparently. We'll trust Robstar. Contributor updating fluid, which actually I saw that, so I published it yesterday, but for a new package that we don't use in Orchard. So it's kind of useless to upgrade to this one. There is a bug fix on the include tag for caching, but that was not really necessary to update to this thing. That's not harming either, so I'm not complaining. Then new Lucene, I checked it a week ago to see there had a new version, and apparently they have a new one. Interesting. And I'd like to know what's updated on that. I will check on their site, because is it like bug fixes? pictures, PERF. That's interesting to know. Jasmine should be able to say. So good. That's it. Questions, comments? I'll come back when it's my time about the changes with the ViewBuffer to explain technical details. Demos. Dim.
Sure, let me just share my screen. So a couple of little demos today. Sebastian sent me a little challenge a few weeks ago to add some search filters to the contents list. And I kind of have something that mostly works. So time for a little demo. There's a few little things that aren't perfect yet. But the idea was to introduce a little bit more searching into the admin list and also the users, and make it look a little bit like what GitHub are doing. So have a search syntax now. So in here I can do things like beach and lizards, and I'll just get the operations that get the items that have both of those in it. I can do other things like beach not lizards, do beach or what was the other thing I put in there? Mountains maybe. The default being beach and mountains. I'm sorry, the default being or. I can then clear that and
Why is it all? Why is it all?
It's all because that's how Lucene does it actually.
That's interesting.
The Lucene parser.
I want Bertrand's opinion on that, because when you add more things, usually you want to see less stuff, no?
Well, I base the Boolean stuff, and if I've got it wrong, tell me, we'll get it the other way around. But base the Boolean stuff off the Lucene parser syntax, okay. Where the default was when you have nothing between stuff. So mountain. So you get more stuff. There's an extra space there that I didn't want. That's annoying. Whereas if you actually want to be specific, then you have to start restricting it down. So there's nothing that has mountain and beach in it, but there's probably something that has beach and lizards, if I remember. Yeah, okay. So it had to come up with some random strings to test this with. Yeah, so you can do that. You can do filtery things, and then the filters start showing up in here, which is nice. They show up there when they're not the default. If I go back to latest, it'll be published. There's a typo there, definitely. Got no drafts at the moment. So you can delete those. Same with sorts. And I was just having a look, but I haven't quite finished it. But I think you can also do yeah, you can partly do modifiers here. I haven't quite finished all of that, but you can do modifiers on those to get ascending or descending, just to reverse the orders. And what else does it do? So in another scenario, not this particular scenario, you can also name the argument. So you could, if you'd registered, you could have text, and then you could have a body term as well, and something goes in the body, and any other kind of named arguments, but they have to be kind of pre-registered as a field in a query. To actually work in at the moment, I've just got text in there because it's just the display text that we kind of tend to use in this this list.
You have groups?
So yes, we have groups. Sorry, bear with me half a second. Yep, so we have groups. So you can do Peach. Oh, it worked. Excellent. So in terms of syntax,
are the operators uppercase all the time?
the operators are uppercase all the time. And I think at the moment I've got and in there as an operator as well. There's a few little tweaks to be done here. And also borrowed from the Lucene parser syntax. It's lowercase, but that won't actually matter for SQL in this case. Beach. May or may not have worked. Not quite what I was expecting. Clear that. Yeah, so I borrowed Lucene syntax, so grouping, don't have this and don't have plus. Doesn't quite make as much sense when translating it to SQL to be able to do those. The dash maybe might be a good swap in for not, and easy to add as well. I just haven't got to thinking about it yet.
Isn't dash dot not?
The way they describe it here, they describe it slightly differently. So because I hadn't quite had a chance to read it properly, I haven't included it yet. But I think it probably is. It's just plus is a little different because when the Lucene parser breaks it down, it doesn't really break it down into proper Boolean operators. It breaks it down into match, not match. But I think for the purposes of this, substituting plus and into and not would work well, would suit well. Generally makes sense to people. Yeah, so that's that little thing.
That's great.
So
and
nice
it's not using
parser.
Lucene. And it's not using Lucene, just SQL, so you don't need to enable Lucene to have that.
Yep, so you don't need to enable Lucene. I need to make another PR to SQL to make a couple of things async because there's some requirement. Basically what you do is you register for the contents list, parsers, and then you register functions on the parser for when it succeeds to do type conversions into this enum, for example, and then the actual query action will take place. So that's the status one. This one is the sort one, which just allows to do sorts in different ways. And this is the text one, which has one func for the positive match and another one for when it's negative, so it can do a is not in. And I probably need to make these async, just looking at some of the stuff we have in the current content list filters that I haven't got in there yet. So yeah, so registration is reasonably easy and simple, and yeah, reasonably pleased with it actually.
How do you parse this query string?
So the query string is passed by a parser. Sorry, my mouse is playing up on me. So what we do is we register a parser here, which is a named term parser. Which is this parser here. So using your pilot parsing tool, these are some parsers that I built up on top of them, which then lean on some other parsers that get passed into them. So the term parser, and this would work so much better if my mouse didn't have cat hair in it. So you have the single parser, which is for a lot of these things like the sort, things like the status stuff. It's a single option. You can't do ands or ors with that. It's a kind of preset. This is what you can have. And then for the Boolean, we catch the other operations, which is a little bit more complex. And you end out of this with either of those funcs, either of those queries that happen, and then as it gets processed, it turns it into one of the SQL any or all nodes. Here. Yeah, and a not node, we just add the all option to the query, which is where I need to be able to be async. Fix that.
I didn't see anything that required a custom parser class. It was just aggregating other little parsers. So maybe you don't need a class.
Yeah, there's nothing about these parsers that are custom,
Okay.
except it aggregates them and it takes as you register them, because we've got so much kind of flexibility in Orchard, and things get registered from different modules, and there's a contents list one filter, and then there's a taxonomy filter and a culture filter. Because they get registered in different places, it needed a little bit of ability to pass some information down. So on the term parser, for example, you tell it what kind of parser you're going to use, and then you pass the func to the parser, which then passes it which then registers it when it creates the node. So I might change that to put it on the context property rather than actually passing it into the parser directly. But I haven't quite worked through that yet. So that's the only reason they're custom, is because as they get created, look at this one here. There's the parser that it works on, and as it creates. Oh, sorry, there is one custom parser in here. The separated parser, which is just been tweaked a little bit from the standard separator, so it resets the delimiter, so that the delimiter, which is the term, this is the delimiter between terms. We actually need to know what that value is, so it resets it as it finds it. So it might make that an option on the standard separated parser to do a reset. All it does is just resets the position after it finds the separator, so it doesn't consume it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other binding happens in a model binder. So in a custom model binder, we register, we inject the parser and pass it from the query string. Which means on the controller itself, a lot of code here. On the controller itself, it injects a term list, and the query string is Q. So it pre-passes it before it arrives. Still need to do a little tweaking on that, to be honest. It's not working quite as I wanted it to. So we'll see.
That's great. Very nice. Really super useful. It's like GitHub searches, but everywhere we need.
Yeah, and all SQL, so no hassle about what you run. You could easily write another parser here, which captured some Lucene syntax and passed it to Lucene to then pass back to SQL, but we'll see. It might be nice, but that might be more like a feature rather than just a standard part of it all.
Okay. Good. Thanks. Antoine?
Yeah. So I have a little demo about a PR I made recently. It's about breadcrumbs in the admin and where we can display them. So I replaced the display title in the top bar by a display breadcrumbs in the top bar. By default, for example, on the workflow details page, there is a breadcrumb, and if you check this option, this setting, the breadcrumb will be displayed in the top bar. So right now there are not so many pages that have a breadcrumbs, but that's a good way to, when you have a details page, to display the parent page. So maybe we can add more breadcrumbs in other pages.
Yeah, we could, and maybe also related to the work on where to put the title and the actions and the filter and everything. When there is everything on a page, that would be interesting to know where they go. The conflict or not. Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see it with the other one you did with the content items editing, the one Sebastian was just talking about, and just have it always in the top bar rather than being an option. I think combined with the editing one, it would all just make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we just need to pick a page that has the breadcrumb, the filter, and the actions and the title to make it look good. And then once we have this model, we can apply it everywhere. You see here, you see there are actions, there are filters, there is everything here. It's just missing a filter. And everything should be able to fit, I'm sure, on the bar somehow.
I think actually, if you go to the instances of a workflow, you will see filter.
Yeah, you see, go back to the screen you were just before, right? Just before. You see here, this bar, the Azure DevOps builds, you have the breadcrumbs, you have the filter, you have the actions, you have the title. That's one solution. Maybe not the title solution is different. It was just like the site name, but the way it's showing the breadcrumbs like this and then the filter on the right, that did fit. So yeah, it would be good to have some screenshots of what it could look like with everything. And if we want to change it, and then it's not an option, it's like this is the design. Yeah, the type. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Here there are two bars. Top one with the breadcrumb and the filter and some actions, some global actions. And then the second one with Cornish, Minish, whatever, with some title and a go back. And some actions there. That also makes sense. But the top search here is not contextual, it's global, I would assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we should find a solution that we can use everywhere we agree on, and then it's not an option. It's just the way it's designed. Good. Okay, so right now you made an option, which is okay. Thank you. Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, you can see, we can see when you switch, there is navigation effect.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's weird. That's what I meant. Maybe you should remove it. If people don't care, I say let's remove it. If you care about having it, then let's not remove it. Good. Questions, comments? Jasmine, you're next. Another search demo, but a spatial one.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Let me know when you see it.
Good.
So basically what I did is complete a PR that was there since a while, made by Pete Davis. I reviewed it and fixed some things in there. So basically what it has, it's a field for geolocalization. If we go to the Acme content type where I had this field, it has a geopoint field here. And we have two different editors. We have a standard one and a leaflet editor. Standard one is just an input, and this one will show a map from a leaflet editor, which is a JavaScript library. So I created already some content items with it. So here it's the leaflet one. And basically what it has is it's the latitude and longitude field to be able to index a position in Lucene. And Lucene has already spatial search features, which this PR implements. If we go to the queries now.
If you move the pin, does it move the values of the field?
Yeah.
Move the pin.
The pin, though. You can't move the pin. It's just.
Oh.
It's just a map.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. Well, we could do like stuff like that, but
one day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not supported yet. Good.
It's about just doing things with leaflet JavaScript library. So I created some examples here. Example, if you want to do a search from a specific radius, like let's say 200 kilometers, like I did there. So I want to find all the content items which have latitude, longitude, which has a distance of 200 kilometers. You can use now a filter query in the Lucene query. You can use kilometers. There's different distance. Let me see.
Units.
Yeah, units. You can use different units here in the filters for the geodistance filter provider, which is all of them. Miles, kilometers, feet.
There's a regex. I saw a regex. What did you do?
Oh, it's not me that did this code, but yeah, okay. maybe you could. Actually, I have not looked at this code yet, so but it works. So. Yeah, and here if I change the latitude, longitude, it's gone. So basically, it's not within this radius.
That's great. Did you make, or is it possible to make a SQL index also?
Already, right now it's not in SQL Server. It's just indexed in Lucene.
Okay. But
maybe
nothing is preventing it from being able to support it in SQL.
Yeah, we could do that too. Yeah.
well, the language might be limiting that.
I'm not sure. Do we have a spatial feature in SQL Server? Probably.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, there is. So
probably everywhere actually. It's just there is no common SQL syntax maybe to explain it. I have no idea. I need to check.
Yeah,
and yeah.
me too.
Okay.
The other one is a GeoBound box query. So basically, it's a box. So instead of doing a radius, it's going to do a box on the map. And I'm going to just pick up some values here. So you have your top left, bottom right latitude, longitude for your box. And here it's finding the values inside this box. So my location is 34,138. So inside 33,137 and 35,139. So this one works too. And while I was doing this PR, I decided to also add other filters because here what a filter does is it doesn't take in consideration the boost values of a Lucene query, so it's not influenced by a boost value on a content item. And I created filtered queries here, so we can do a filter on term and wildcard queries. So basically here I'm saying return every content items which are published and as a display text, a wildcard display text, which includes main. And it found the main menu content item. So you can use filter as a SQL query. It does the same thing. So it's going to order, sort your content items alphabetically if you add a sort here, or it's just going to retrieve them. I'm not sure, but I think it's in the order that they are added in the document index in Lucene. Need to try this. You can do it also with a specific content type, so you can mix those queries. You could do a bool query on them and say, I want to find only content types which are menus and filter on them, which would work. If I remove the menu and I type something that is not in the content type that works, then it's going to remove the result, the only result that I have. So we can see that it works. And also same thing here with filtered query, which is quite the same. GeoBounding box here can do the same thing. I could say I want to do a GeoBounding box query for just a specific content type. Which works. And I can say the opposite here. Menu doesn't have a acne location, so it won't find it. No result. Yeah, this is it. You have questions or?
Awesome, thank you. Questions? No questions. And just for security purpose, the top left, bottom right curly braces injected variables are JSON encoded in this case, so you can't hack the JSON. Good, thank you. I'll share. you, Jasmin. Topic redesign, opening this issue. So the issue was created last week. For those who didn't see that, suggestion to change the logos, 2 different logos from 1 and 2, 2 different fonts, typos, from A and B. People voted on Twitter, people voted on the issue. On the issue, it looks like it's 2A, 2 thumbs up. 2A. That's all the votes there. And on Twitter, not sure I will be able to find it. How can I find? Oh, beautiful. Thank you for that. Winner is 2A, but there are 2 things. So 2A, usually, if you look at the A's, we have 35 plus 37 for the A's and 25 for the B's. So A is winning. 1 versus 2, we have 46 for the 1 and 54 for the 2. So 2A wins in both ways of voting. So it looks like it's a 2A. How many votes? 37 votes. So that's good. That's representative. So very close between 1A and 2A, but A is definite winner. A being meaning the font, and between 1 and 2, 46 versus 54. So 2 is also winning. So 2A, which is this one. So new logo and semi-standard font, not this bold font here. So this one. So that should be the one we should use. Good. Anyone wants to complain? We'll just pick the winner. Bugs. So there were multiple issues filed last week about Orchard starting to not, well, stop working for some users, mostly on Azure. Can I find the issue? It might happen to you still. So issues. If Antoine, you have a link for me before I can find closed argument out of range exception. This one. Okay. Yeah, so one user reported that. So an unhandled exception occurred while processing the request, argument out of range exception. On Azure, I think this is the exception, not the same user. And someone else also reported the same thing on this one also, but this one was different. This one was when typing this title with some encoded value. So the bug is in ASP.NET-MVC. The bug is in ASP.NET-MVC. Let me show you. Just because that's interesting. What's the class name? ViewBuffer.
ViewBufferTextWriter or something.
Thank you. So here, if we go to the right char array, this one index count, if the buffer is null, argument null. If the index is negative or the index is greater or equal to buffer.length, then this one. If you have index which is 0 and the buffer which is 0 and count is 0, meaning I want to write an empty char array from 0 and 0 length, like empty, this exception will be thrown, and that's what's happening. So this method is called with that. So this should be strictly greater. So that's a bug here, but it happens only on Orchard, and it happened by itself because there was security release that was shipped by ASP.NET and .NET, the 5.04 last week and 2 weeks ago, sorry, and it got pushed automatically on Azure. And because it was, if you're using 3.1 or 5.0, it will roll forward to the latest service patch release if you don't deploy as self-contained. So it used a new version of this runtime. And in this runtime, there is a new implementation of system text encoding and the HTML encoder, which we use in Orchard because we HTML encode the strings. And this new implementation changed completely how it was writing encoding stuff. And now there is a code path in this library that is calling sometimes empty 0, in the case of the thing you want to encode starts with an encodable char, because in the earlier version, it will write char by char, which was not optimal. And in the new version, it will split the string based, okay, let's process everything that doesn't have to be encoded, then everything that has to be encoded, and then again. So like 3 different arrays. But the first array is an empty array. And this is when, that's when it happens. So it could have been optimized to not code anything when it's an empty array. That's something to do, but the bug is actually here. And in Orchard, what's happening is that we do write to the ASP.NET view buffer, which is the Razor page actually, from a char array, because the liquid templates, that's how they do that. They are just evaluated as char arrays and sent to the view buffer of ASP.NET. And but if you do just pure ASP.NET with Razor pages, you usually invoke the method write string or write object, but it never goes into this one. So that's why it just happened in Orchard currently. You can do it in Razor, but you have to explicitly do output.write and pass a char array. So maybe some other people will be hit, but Orchard more specifically. And that's why it happened all by magic, like because the service patch was pushed. And either if you had in some templated fields, because title is actually rendered through a liquid template, okay, that is the site title. Either that, or if you were encoding some, so the pager, for instance, had this issue also. When we render the pager, the second page has a left arrow, which has to be encoded, and it will trigger the issue. So that's the problem. And one fix was first to, have errors on Orchard, interesting. So one fix was I wanted to go there. So that's what Chantieri did. Chantieri, where are you? Here, to actually remove the view buffer. So we have also our own view buffer text writer content, which is buffering the stuff coming from Liquid. And oh, there was another issue actually. With this release, there was a third issue, which was that sometimes the content would be duplicated, because also with the new change in the web encoding, the char arrays that are passed to us are actually coming from a pool. So they don't expect us to hold references on these char arrays, but we did that. I did that, my bad. And because we were holding references, they were sending us the same char array again and again with different values. So in the end, we thought we had 3 different char arrays, but we had just one. So we were just actually rewriting the same one again and again. So we had duplicated content and sometimes buffer corruptions. So removing that class fixed the issue, fixed all the issues, because we are not writing the char arrays anymore. We are just writing HTML content on the ASP.NET buffer and fixing also the duplicated char arrays. So that was the easy fix. The issue with that change is that it included some bufferization in as a string. So where is that? Somewhere here. Because this was our buffer, we need to get a new buffer, and the new buffer is to use a string, but it was allocating a lot more. At least it fixed the issue. And this is why we did some extra change to put again a view buffer text writer content, but this time it's not calling the char-array thing with the issue, and it's allocating by itself some pool string builders, pages of pool string builders, just to make things completely non-allocated. And that worked very well, because now in terms of PERF, I did some benchmarking, and when you run Orchard on load, the two culprits for allocations are AspNet ViewBuffer, because it has to allocate, and dependency injection. And Orchard is just third, but not in terms of allocating templates. So that's very good. So that's the current status of that. So PERF is better. We fixed the bug, but anyone who has the bug has to either deploy as a self-contained version with the previous version of .NET to mitigate the issue, but you will still have a security issue, or upgrade to the dev branch. But this is documented, and it worked well for everyone who had the issue and reported the issue in GitHub. And that's it. Questions? Questions. Little note. So I did a lightweight user study with Noel, who had questions about how to set up a website in Orchard. And so while I was doing that with Noel, I had a few little annoyances, even myself knowing pretty well Orchard, not all the parts, but I assume if I can't do something, I don't expect people to be able to find how to do the things, right? If I wrote some of the code, I have access to the source code, I have access to the doc, so it's enlightening to see where it's hard for me, so where it must be even harder for someone else. So the first issue we got was I tried to create a template inside the existing app. So what I did is that I created a new website. I referenced the Orchard packages, and I tried to redesign. Well, we went through setup, which went fine, and then I tried to create a custom template for a custom content type. So I just created something like content dash, let's say article.cshtml in Razor, but I wanted to put it in the views folder of my app, because an app is a module. So I expected it to just work. It didn't work. I couldn't find a way to make it work. And I thought there was a way to make it work. So after a few attempts, I say, okay, I won't be able to do that. So I stopped trying. But I would love to be able that we could do that, so we don't have to create a custom theme module or library just to be able to have customizations. And maybe I need also to be able to write a layout. Or I was expecting the default layout to be picked up, which is just the code-based one. So at least be able to write something like this. That was my goal. And what I used, I think, a blank recipe. Yes, I used a blank recipe, which is still using CMS. Okay, but at the first, there is no template, there is nothing to display, there is no content item. That's the first thing I failed to create, and that made me sad. Second thing was, so we created a new theme project or library. It was a project, let's say a project. And I tried to do it manually, and I was not able to find the correct references to add to the project. I added targets theme that worked, but the SDK wasn't obvious. So it was probably just missing some documentation on how to create a project manually and what it requires. Then we created it from the templates, the .NET templates, .NET New, and then it worked well. So .NET New was nice. It was well documented, so I didn't have any issue doing that. So that was good. So then it worked. And then I could create my content articles HTML. It was working. But the next issue we faced is that updating a CSHTML file was not reloaded. I had to restart every time. Even if I add the preserve compilation context property. So that was that. I don't know what was happening, but every time I changed the file, I had to restart the app. So that was not a good experience. That was quick though, because it was just a simple project, not from the source code. And then what I haven't been able to do, even with documentation, and that should have been very easy with some documentation, but there was absolutely no documentation for that, was to be able to render a menu. I wanted to render the menu, the main menu, okay, in CSS. I could not find anything in the documentation. So I know internally how it works. I could just render the shape type menu and provide the properties, but I had to look into the code. And that you have to know it's in the menu shapes class, and you have to understand how the menu shapes class works, and that's you can't expect anyone to know that without documentation. So I have no idea how you do your websites, how you inject your menu in CSS.HTML. Where did you find the example and how you do that? That was super interesting because all our themes, they're actually in Liquid. So you get lots of samples for Liquid, the same thing for the layout and everything, but I couldn't find any sample in Razor. I think that's it. Might be one or two more things, but that were my main pain points.
In the theme.
Yeah.
Sure. In the theme, there is a menu.css.html.
Yeah, but that's not my question. I want to render the menu. I'm not even to the theming aspect. In my view, in my layout, I want to render a main menu. So maybe it's the same answer. Let me check.
In the layout, we are using the tag helper, I guess.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I found the tag helper. I knew about tag helper, but I added it in the view imports. And when I was rendering the menu tag, yeah, that's what happened. Yeah, because I found the tag helper, so I wrote the menu tag helper like this, and also define in the view imports the reference to that, and by looking at that actually, yeah, by looking at where was I here? Views imports. So I picked that to get the tag helper, and then I'm sure we found it here somewhere. We found it. It didn't work. The tag helper was not picked up. It was rendering this type as is, meaning it didn't find the tag helper. So maybe the issue was just that we should have picked more than just this line, but I swear there was this line and this line.
And the line 6 tag helpers.
Yeah, maybe that's what was missing. But you know, like how do people know? So yeah, I'm sure that's right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe I should have just picked everything without thinking. So, but it should have been fixed by like simple documentation example. If we had just one example how to render a menu, we could find it and say that's just my concept. But that's good. I mean, that's why I did that, just to feel the pain points and to fix the next time, because next time I want to do that, I know it's in the doc and I can find it. Not having to look at the source code and copy paste, because you have to know that it is in this folder, that this one is based on Razor, that, oh, this is a line. No way. Okay. Nobody can find it. If you are not a core developer, you don't know. I didn't know. Okay, so if you do websites very often, that's fine, you know, but if it's your first website, there is no way you can know. Or congrats, I don't know how you did that. My feedback. Good? We'll fix it.
Yeah, maybe it's the references of the project. Yeah.
True. Yeah. At the same time, I referenced the Orchard themes. And maybe that's it. I will check again. I would take some time and try to find the answers, but that was my experience. So I'm sure there is an answer to everything, and but I need to find it now. Okay. Questions, comments? How are you?
Yeah, it would be nice to have somewhere where we can put, and I don't know if the documentation is quite the right place because it's a little too formal, but it would be nice to have somewhere where we could put simple samples for people. And I guess just are quite useful, but because I don't want to write a whole guide about menus. But I cut and paste it, 3 steps easily enough, and yeah.
Maybe this full experience could be a mini guide like we have for Liquid ISite, or all these things are interesting. People can follow them. Create a website word for me. So maybe like, okay, creating a new website, blank site and a theme, and just the minimal steps. But if it was just a title thing like rendering the menu in a Razor page and tell you that you need to add these 2 things in the view imports and this tag, and that's it, that will have been sufficient. Because, yeah, I understand what you mean, and the Spring Boot has a page like this. They have a page with lots of little stories like this, completely unorganized, but so many. So what is documentation? Support? Community? Learn. Guides. Maybe that's what they call guides. You see here? So this is like our guides. It's organized. It's not in a page like this, but same thing. Working with things started with STS. So I don't know. And sometimes they are very, very small. Yeah, just every little thing that we could think about being able to do, a little example and description of what to do. So people can just copy paste and find an answer. That's accumulating all these little things. That's the best thing we can do so far. This is nice. For instance, create a custom admin thing. Very nice. Because that's something that I'm sure people want to do. And at least there is an answer. It doesn't have to be big, just, and because of that, it's searchable. Like, okay, admin team, create a custom admin thing. That's why we just content, even if it's not organized, because we have search, people will type it up. Then we can organize it better. Like if we have lots of things around authentication, then we can group them in an authentication section if we want, but it doesn't have to be organized. Just some content is missing. So we have to fix it. Do you agree, Dean? That will be sufficient to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, if we did get a few more mini guides in there, then with just little things, that also helps give people a template to follow to write another one. Where it's just simple rather than, because some of those are quite complex, and yeah, that could work.
Yeah, a guide to create a theme, definitely, and not just in Liquid, in Razor, because we have lots of examples in Liquid, not in Razor. Kind of sad. Okay, all good. Any question? Perfect. Thanks, everyone. There is triage this Thursday, and we'll make some progress in 1.0. We've made very good progress, so I don't think about anything that is blocking us from 1.0. I will check on Thursday, but last time it looked really good, and it's looking even better now. So see you on Thursday. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks.